Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Jonathan Whistman, and we're going to be talking to you today about a strategy summit that Made Central is hosting in Charleston, South Carolina in September 17 through 19. So we're just a few weeks away. Jonathan is going to be one of our keynote speakers, and he's going to be talking about how to maximize the value of your human capital from a recruiting to hiring to what happens after that standpoint with a ton of artificial intelligence wisdom pertaining to the human capital side and a whole lot more. Jonathan, how are you today?
Great, Tom, and it's nice to be chatting with you today. It's been a while since I've been in Charleston. I'm looking forward to being there.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And September, things will be cooling down a little bit. It'll still be kind of toasty, a little humid, but it'll be good.
I'm coming from Phoenix, so everything's cooler.
You're not worried about that. Yeah. You're accustomed. Yeah, we were chatting a bit before, and I was mentioning I saw a video yesterday. You guys had like a weather event out there. That's crazy.
We do. They call it a haboob. It's a big dust cloud that just comes rolling across the valley. You go from sunshine to dark curtain of dust.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm glad that's behind you, and no serious damage, I trust.
Yeah, no serious damage. Just everything covered in mud. So it'd be a good opportunity for cleaners out there to clean up.
There you go. So the silver lining in every cloud. I'm going to start, and I should have pulled this up already. I'm a little bit behind the curve. And I'm going to take just a minute and talk about the event that we're going to be doing here in a little less than a month now.
It's coming up fast.
Yep, it is. As life in general. We're calling this the Made Central Strategy Summit. And this is unique for us. And, I've been around the house cleaning industry for a minute, and I think it's unique to the industry because most of the training events that I'm familiar with are more tactically focused. A lot of information that you're going to take back and implement in your business the next week. We're going to give you some of that. We're going to give you some of that in this, but also in this, we're going to be focusing on strategic matters. And we've got 3 keynote speakers. Jonathan is going to be one of them. John Zanowski is going to be another one, and Matt Ricketts is going to be the third. And each morning of this 3-day event is going to be dedicated to one of our 3 keynote speakers covering a particular topic. And John's going to be handling the recruiting and hiring and the human capital side of it. John Zandowski is going to be talking more of an operational measurement and management standpoint. Unit economics is kind of his thing, and he does some crazy stuff with data. And we're all about data here that helps big businesses and even small business, help any business be more profitable. And I know all of you know Matt, and Matt's one of the strongest operators that I know in the house cleaning vertical, and he's going to be kind of opening the hood on the secret sauce he uses to scale his business. The afternoon sessions are going to be a little more tactical in nature. We're going to have Gosha Barron. Everybody knows Gosha. Pete Glavis. Pete, I've known Pete for over 20 years. Pete had a $6 million business 20 years ago, and he still does, plus. And when I reached out to Pete, and Pete doesn't speak much, and he asked me, what do you want me to talk about? And it's like, well, I've been doing a little bit of back of the envelope math here, and by my calculation, you've cleaned more homes in the house cleaning industry than anybody ever has. And he thought about it for a second. He said, Joe, you're probably right. It's like, we want to hear about it. So we're going to have fun with Pete. Don Haga, he's building a platform company. He's got branches all over the country, and he's doing acquisitions. He's doing some organic stuff. He's going to be one of the largest house cleaning companies in North America before he's done. Greg Norrell, he's the founder of More Hands. And if you're in the Texas area, you've heard of More Hands. And he's kind of off the radar screen. He doesn't, do a lot of things in public, but was able to I guess, call a favor, and he's agreed to come tell his story as well. Joe Walsh is one of the best CEOs in the house cleaning vertical that I know. He's going to be sharing with us, as well as Chris Willett. Interestingly enough, Chris, Joe, um, and Matt, and maybe Gosha. I should know this. I know that there were 9 house cleaning companies on the Inc. 5000 list. There were 9. Those 9 all have one thing in common. They all use Made Central. So I can't take credit for that, but
you can take credit for that. Pat yourself on.
If they say they couldn't have done it without Made Central, I wouldn't argue with them. How about that?
Yeah. Well, you can take a great tool and put it in the hands of a bad operator and have bad outcomes. But when you put a great tool in the hands of a great operator, you get really stupendous results.
When preparation and opportunity collide. So if you want to sign up, I was told earlier today that we've got 3 seats left for the live event. So if you want to come to the live event, the live event is going to be really cool because you get to network and hang out with some of the brightest minds and most successful house cleaning companies in North America. I encourage you to do it, but you need to do it quick, because once those 3 seats are gone, we're done with that. Fortunately, we're going to be live streaming, so you can buy live streaming tickets as well, and we've got an infinite number of those, so you can still participate and get a lot of the good stuff through the live stream. And you go to madecentral.academy for that, madecentral.academy. Jonathan, tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, I've known you for a good while. I know that you do some work for a number of the most successful, businesses in the house cleaning vertical. I don't think Matt would mind me sharing that he's a client of yours. And
when you put Matt's picture up, the thing that came to mind, aside from being a stellar guy, he is such an operator that he pushes us all the time to be the best we can be as a platform for hiring in the cleaning industry. And so always bringing innovation to the forefront. But you may not know this about me. I have we work a lot with home service companies. So think HVAC, plumbing, electrical, very blue collar, where you're hiring at scale. You've got to get people in that can learn a particular skill. But the interest that I have in the home cleaning and janitorial field specifically comes from, that was the very first business that I ever started. And so I grew up poor in a big family. And so if I was going to go to college, or I was going to accomplish anything in life, I was going to pay for that myself. And that ended up being in the cleaning industry. So I scaled that and sold it and got out of that. But my fondness is always back to those days of, swinging a mop and running a vacuum cleaner late at night. So,
and that's powerful and invaluable experience, because doing what you're doing now, having had that experience, gives you a perspective that allows you to give a richer level of service and develop a more useful product, and to just develop better content. You've walked in those shoes. You've been there, done that.
I'm probably best known for my book, The Sales Boss, which is about building high performance sales team. It was published by Wiley about 6 years ago. But I've built and sold a couple of companies. And one of the things my grandfather said to me that has been true in every company I've ran or every client I've had, he used to say all the time, business would be easy if it wasn't for the people. And when you talk to business owners, as soon as you say that, they nod their head, they chuckle, they get exactly the complexity of getting a group of people united behind a particular mission, delivering excellence to the customer every day, whether that's a homeowner, whether that's your B2B client. And so I've really crafted my career around this idea of elevating human potential. What does it take to elevate our own human potential as business owners, right? As members of our community and all the other roles that we play. But then how do we do that for the people that work for us as well? And to the extent that you can get a great group of humans pointed in a direction, working together, you're going to have a quality business. In fact, I would say the valuation of your business is directly tied to your ability to attract, hire, train, and retain great humans. And so I feel like that's the core fundamental thing that has to sit at the center of every business. It should be the most important thing. So when we're at our session together, we'll talk a bit about our approach at WhoHire, which I think, regardless if you're one of our customers or not, many of your users of Made Central likewise are users on our platform, but they really understand that all of the other things they do, they're in the cleaning business, but truth be told, the leaders, the C-level executives, they're actually not in the cleaning business. They are in the human business, and their humans are in the cleaning business. Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense.
So how do you do that at scale? One of the things that's true about every cleaning business is that the longevity of employees typically isn't that long. You have a high degree of churn. A lot of times it's a stepping stone career. Sometimes it's a life stage career, right? But there's a reason people are there. Not to say there aren't people that don't make a career out of cleaning homes. But if you're going to be successful in the cleaning industry, you have to have a system in place to efficiently and at scale hire and retain people. And so we're going to talk about how organizations can do that. I also have a huge fascination around technology. So I follow AI really closely. I have a number of AI companies. When most people think about AI, I think they make the mistake of thinking about it in terms of like ChatGPT or helping create documents. But we're moving so quickly in this space of technology that if you are hiring the same way you did a year ago and you're doing that today, you're already getting further and further behind. The speed at which technology can help you identify and hire people is astounding. And it's sort of this, you might think of it as two opposite sides. When you think technology, you don't normally think humans, right? You might think, oh, it's cold, it's impersonal. But technology is getting so great right at this tip of the spear time that you can use technology, you can use AI and actually have it deliver a level of personal attention to your job applicant than would be possible even if you had a human actively doing the job. So before we got on this call, we were talking about a project that we're working on internally where when you have job applicants apply, they can get a video of you as the owner. So say you, Tom, talking to me if I apply, there's a video that comes out and says, hey, Jonathan, thanks for your application. I noticed you worked at XYZ company. It'll mention a few things from my past and it'll invite me into the hiring process. It can be delivered by text message. That feels really hyper personalized. There's no way the owner or the CEO of a company is going to be creating custom videos for every single job applicant. That's now possible. As far as I'm aware, we're the only platform that's doing that, and we're just on the cusp of getting that out of beta and people to be able to use it. But that's the sort of thing when you think about it, it's probably true now. At least it was when I was in the cleaning industry. The margins are pretty thin.
Oh, it is
Right.
incredibly thin. One of the things that we talk about is the return on human capital and compare the amount of revenue that a full-time equivalent in the house cleaning world can generate versus HVAC or pest control or anything else. It's, a fraction. And the actual compensation isn't a whole lot different. So the amount of money you have left over once you cover payroll is thin in the house cleaning business. So you have to perform at a high level.
Yeah. And so I think that's where if your contractors can get to the point where they're leveraging AI and efficiency tools in a way that hyper personalizes as though they put a human in that seat, but where they can deliver a level of consistency and touch points that doesn't incrementally increase their cost. Right. So they can maintain their margins in their business. And I'm sure that's what people experience when they're on your platform is they're able to really reach a lot more people with or accomplish more tasks with without scaling the human component of it in terms of the cost of that person sitting in a seat.
That's an important part of it. And when you talk about the recruiting part of it, one of the things that we definitely are going to do an adequate job of covering in the strategy summit is the shift in competitive forces and how technology is changing that. The example that you just gave with being able to develop an AI generated customized video to a job candidate, on the other side of that, job candidates are able to sit around at night and apply to 100 jobs with just kind of a click of a button, right?
Yeah, they actually have AI agents now that will just go out and search and apply. I think in the cleaning industry, you're probably not getting a huge influx of candidates doing that yet. Certainly in more technical jobs where people, that are taking those jobs have a high degree of technical capability, they're certainly facing that. But what is true, I think, in the cleaning industry, as it is in all businesses, is if you want to get qualified people, you by nature have to cast a wider and wider net to get those people. And what does that mean? You might be advertising on social media, whatever channel you're trying to generate interest, you're going to get a lot of very unqualified candidates coming through that pipeline, right? It's going to be the person that was, high or drunk in the middle of the night and just clicks apply, and people you would never put in front of your customers. What does that mean? It means for your internal HR staff, equipping them with tools that can intelligently weed through those, provide a response to candidates, and get your team focused on the handful of people they should be talking. Now you can continue to cast a wider and wider net because you're not gumming up the system. Because one of the things that is true, I think, in society is we've become sort of like an Uber, DoorDash sort of society. Like, you think about it, you get the munchies middle of the night, you order a burrito on DoorDash. I don't know why you'd have the munchies in the middle of the night, but you order this burrito. And how many times do you look at the app to find out when your burrito is going to get there? Like, it might be 5 times. The DoorDasher's been selected, the DoorDasher's on the way. It shows the little car. The DoorDasher's picked it up. The DoorDasher's headed to your door. Get ready. None of that communication really gets your burrito any faster to you, but it provides this sense of attention. And our consumers, our applicants are used to that. But what happens with most cleaning companies when somebody applies, they're getting a static response, like somebody will be with you shortly. There's a delay. So if you want to be applicant friendly, you have to have a system that automatically applies and gives them those updates. Here's what you can expect. Here's how long it's going to take. Here's what the next 3 steps, and it has to feel personal because that's what they're used to. If they're not,
and they're applying to 100 other jobs, so you need to. How are you going to stand out? How do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah, and speed to hire.
Yeah,
right. Because especially in the house cleaning industry, there's 100 other things they could do.
So you got to be first, and you need to have something special.
Yeah. So I talk about, like, what's the recipe for bringing in good human capital. The very first thing is you need a massive pool of applicants, whether that's your job boards, your social reputation, your community reputation, your position against your competitors, your pay, benefit cultures, your events. That's the job of the business owner, is really to drive that massive pool of candidates. The second thing is you have to have an effective screening so that you can have speed to hire. We just mentioned DoorDash, Uber. That you need to be responding to the applicant. There should never be a delay of more than, say, 12 hours between a candidate action and your response. And you need to be able to deliver that consistently. And so there's tons of tools out there that can help do that can help screen those and put those in. And then the third thing that you have to have is, which is outside of.
When you talk about the 12 hours, I want to ask, the traditional thought process is, well, you're talking about normal business hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But does that apply in today's world, or is that 12 hours?
Yeah,
and 24/7 world?
I think you should be 24/7,
Yeah.
24/7, right? And there are some aspects of that. But as an example, sometimes we do an interview and we're not making a job offer immediately. Like if we know what we're looking for and we've screened appropriately, we should be able to, as soon as we make a connection with that candidate, make a decision and make a job offer. And make a job offer that's compelling to them. When they raise their hand and they apply on our website, they should instantly be engaged in the hiring process. And we should be able to say, you could be going to work in as little as 3 days or whatever that time period is. The faster you can do, I'm going to put forth this effort to, I can have a job and I can be that much closer to a paycheck, the better you're going to do as a contractor. And you add into that, job seekers are used to being ghosted and they're ghosting people in interviews. So how can you design a system that, one, protects you as the business owner from getting ghosted, but says to the candidate, we respond to 100% of the people that take the time to apply. And that should be a core part of your value promise to a candidate to say, if you hit apply, you will get a response from us.
Okay.
And automations can help you do that. Then outside of that, if we're talking about the recipe for success in this,
And when you make that statement about, we guarantee that you will hear from us, psychologically, does that kind of say, well, if they're going to make that commitment to me, I need to make that commitment to them, and I'm not going to ghost them? Yeah,
absolutely. And then when you follow through, and you should be able to clearly define, you should be able to say, these are our 3 steps, these are our 4 steps, whatever it is. And here's the commitment level and time it's going to take from you. And here's the time it's going to take us to respond to that.
Okay.
People, especially in today's society, want to know the outcome. They want to be able to look at the app and go, they're almost here. I'm almost there. Here's what's next.
And you're setting the expectation. And if the expectation set, there would not be disappointment because they know what to expect.
Yeah. And then the third, if we're talking about this recipe, the third thing is the ability to have effective interviews. And an effective interview means, one, your executive conducting that interview has to know how to tease out the things that are important for that role. So that's a skill and training behind that. But it's also the quick availability to schedule, the ability to get fast feedback into the system, and the ability to take fast action on the candidates that you do want to talk to. So one of the things that we do at WhoHire, we bring leaders into our facility, and we do 2 days of interview training. They get to see live group interviews, how they're being run, how to run effective executive level interviews. And most people, I think, as operators, especially in home service companies or cleaning companies, they've never actually been trained how to interview effectively. And they're just going on the handful of times maybe they've been interviewed. And so if you can give them the ability to, and we do an entire live role play with real candidates, real interviews, so they can observe and see, what does excellence look like? And what are you looking for in those? And just the ability to do that and then implement it inside a tech platform. Really, we have a lot of our clients that for the first time ever, we're 100% staffed. And we have the ability to turn on a faucet and know we can fill our positions.
So I know that you are like on the cutting edge of a lot of different things with AI. I'm familiar with a lot of companies that are using AI to train their sales agents. Are you using AI to train like interviewers, people in the hiring process?
I'm not doing that yet. That's probably, something that's probably an area that we could implement. We just haven't done that. Yeah. But it would be interesting to give people an ability to show up and practice and get feedback. For now, we don't even do those meetings on Zoom. And the reason is we find value in being face-to-face, and a lot of the communication skills and what happens in a live environment is really hard to reproduce in Zoom. So we want to set up our training center like somebody's office, and they're welcoming, for a group interview, they're bringing 10 candidates in. How do you run that group interview? What are the roles your staff are playing? So we always have an undercover staff member that seems just like a job applicant, shows up just like all the other job applicants, because your job applicants are going to treat that person different than they're going to treat a person in a position of authority.
Okay.
So there's a whole,
And they're undercover, but everybody in the company knows that. I mean, they're not secret squirrel to the interviewer. They're just
just to the other candidates.
To the other candidates.
So we have a whole guidebook on how to do that. We have some activities that help get how are they going to do problem solving. So that's an interesting thing. I think when I'm at your event, I'll probably share a snippet of how they do that, because you get companies that say, yes, we do group interviews. I don't think of a group interview as an individual interview done with a bunch of people in the room. It's really an entirely different thing. It is a stage play put on by a psychologist. Like everything, the stage, screening, the music, the things that are happening in that room are really designed to tease out, who is this human that I'm bringing into my business? I mean, you think about it, the real goal is to repel people from your business, right? The people that are a wrong fit, that are going to tear down your culture, that are going to churn, not going to deliver great service. So we want to look at those things. And then if we, go back to, we've been talking about sort of the ingredients. So you've got the interview. The fourth thing is you have to have the ability to give a compelling offer and do a compelling onboarding, and to be able to do that quick. And then internally have that commitment to excellence and transparency. It looks like Drew just stopped by. Drew and I need to catch up. We haven't had a chance to chat for a while. He's crushing it. Serving the cleaning industry.
Yeah, he's a agency. I guess he does advertising and social media, the whole marketing side.
Yeah, that's it.
So, or one thing that we really haven't talked about, but we probably should, we're kind of into this a little bit, is to come on, really,
you know what they say, technology is great except for when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Drew, full scope digital agency for the cleaning world, 5 Door Media. There's a shout out, Drew, just for showing up.
There you go. I want to take a couple minutes and talk about WhoHire. We're talking about the things that you're doing. I want to put it into context of the mechanism, the business through which you're doing it. Could you tell us a little bit about WhoHire?
Yeah, so WhoHire is a technology platform built for the trades specifically, to automate hiring. And when I say automate hiring, everything from writing the job ad, pushing it out to your job boards, interacting with the candidates dynamically, doing your one-way interviews, your calendar scheduling, your following up. We automate about 60 to 70% of just the mind-numbingly dull work that goes into trying to bring somebody into the hiring process. So our people that use our platform, they're never going in having to look at a resume. That's all being done in the back end through AI and surfacing the best candidates. What really stands us out as different from other applicant tracking systems is something we call a Reggie blueprint. A blueprint is a prediction model to predict how long is somebody going to stick and stay in that role. So what's the tenure of the person going to be, and also how well are they going to perform in that role. So when we first got started in the cleaning industry, we got a number of companies to let us assess their existing staff against about 400 psychographics. They gave us their actual performance data. We ran that through some machine learning algorithms, and out of the 400 to say, here are the 5 or 15 or 20 things, and here's the weighting or recipe that causes somebody to do well in this role and stick and stay. I believe Matt Ricketts was a part of that, and of course the data that he still gets can help us improve that model. So that's what stands us out as different. So when an applicant comes in, we're comparing that applicant to real humans doing the job, whose performance we know. We know how did they perform, how did they ramp, what was their performance like, and how long did they stay in the business? I mentioned my grandfather saying business would be easy if it weren't for the people. The other thing he said is people are unique, but they're predictably unique. And so while we're all individuals, the traits and attributes that are sort of baked into us, from birth, a lot of those stay with us throughout most of our life. And there are stable human attributes. So we can identify through data analytics in a way that a human can't. What are the actual attributes that are contributing to success, or secondly, causing somebody to churn out or stall at mid-performance? And that's how we use AI at the center of our platform. So yes, we're scanning resumes. Yes, we're using it, for follow-up and other things. But the really cool distinguishing aspect is this being able to look at the human that's there, and through a series of well-crafted questionnaires, give you a prediction model around them. So to give you an example, just because it's easy to understand, we have Mercedes-Benz as a client. Their salespeople come in, they take a questionnaire online. It takes them about 10 minutes, and we output an actual prediction. This person's going to sell 10 cars or 50 cars or 30 cars. They're going to stay around 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. We get to within 15% pre-hire.
Oh,
So you can think about what that does for improving the efficacy of that hire. Now, when we get into the cleaning industry, we're not making a number prediction. We're just putting them on a scale of 0 to 100, with 100 being a high fit. And the reason for that is no single cleaning company has enough humans and data that you could, right? And every company prices slightly different. So we created industry models. So we have for the cleaning industry, for residential cleaners, for commercial cleaners. We have all of the roles within an HVAC, plumbing, electrical company, roofing, and we continue to get data in to improve those models over time. So it's a data play. You're gathering that data already. One of the things I think is true is most companies can't really identify when they lose, why they're losing. And so every human that you hire and you have an experience with them, that data about who they were and how they performed should be intellectual property that can be leveraged for making better decisions in the future. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish.
And, a lot of the hiring platforms, I'm not going to pick on anyone in particular, but they've got a lot of hiring tools and things like that too. But they're not necessarily designed to help you hire the candidate that's going to have, the longest lifetime value. That's kind of counter to their business model, because if you've got lower turnover, they're not generating as much revenue. So,
yeah, I think that's true. And, a lot of this category is sort of known as applicant tracking systems.
yes.
And many of them just really take the perspective of a filing system. So I'm keeping track of the candidate, their name and their contact details, and I'm moving them just through a series of steps to hire. Yes, we're doing all of that. But what we really want to do is create some intelligence around that so that we can use the data to help remove bias. Because oftentimes, and it's well proven, we tend to hire people that just interview well, which doesn't always correlate to actual performance. I'll give you an example. One of the things that came out of our cleaning survey when we first created our blueprint for, and this was for commercial cleaners specifically, so not as relevant for home cleaners because they're a different model. But of all of the attributes that we measured, one of the things that we measured was sincerity. So how sincere is somebody? The psychographic sincerity is maybe slightly different how we would think of it as lay people. Sincerity really from a psychographic standpoint is how comfortable is somebody being authentically themselves versus how much do they feel like they need and are willing to adjust to have somebody else's approval. So sincerity is measured. If you were interviewing somebody and they came across as sincere, how would you rate them as a potential employee? You'd probably
that would be a good thing. That is
good. The data actually suggested that the more sincere somebody is, the faster they burn out of the job.
because they're not able to adapt.
Who knows? Like, that's interesting, right? When the data says something's true, the first human thing is to go, I wonder why that's true. And we can make up all sorts of reasons. It is less important why it's true than that it is true. The data suggests that, along with a bunch of other traits, so I don't want to just single out sincerity, but along with a bunch of other traits, that a candidate that comes in that has a above average level of sincerity actually is somebody that's going to burn out of that job faster. So while they might be likable in the interview and you think they make a great teammate, they will, but your investment in training and developing them is going to carry you less distance than if you hired a candidate without that flaw.
And you would call it, it was like that would, on the surface, that looks like a benefit, a feature, as opposed to a bug, if you will.
Yeah, and that's where data becomes so important, is it allows the decision not to be made on gut and intuition, but just on what historically has been true. I think about hiring sort of like a game of poker. If you sit around a poker table, right, you've got your odds in your hand that you're dealt. Then you also have the other players at the table, and sometimes you're betting a hand that doesn't have great odds, and you win, and sometimes you bet a hand that has great odds and you lose. However, you think about the World Series of Poker. Here it is, a game that's largely chance, but we have the same people winning the World Series of Poker year after year after year. And the reason is they have the discipline to play the odds 98% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're patient, which means they're going to lose some hands that they could have won had they bluffed. It means, right, they're going to lose some hands that the odds said it was in their favor. But that discipline, and that's what we're trying to instill in contractors, is let the data consistently over time tell you how you should play your hand, and you will win at a greater measure than somebody that's driven strictly by gut and intuition. Now, there's a lot of things our data models can't tell you. So you still have to be a great interviewer. It can't tell you, does this person have drug and alcohol problems? Does this person have relationship problems, money problems, all of the other things that get in the way and make humans messy. So we still have to tease those out in the interview. But what we can say with data is the fundamental DNA of the human sitting in front of you is similar to the sort of people who excel and stick and stay and perform at a high level in this role.
If I could add, we used to teach a decision-making class, and we would have a bowl with 10 marbles in it, and 8 of them were red and 2 of them were blue, and have somebody close their eyes and reach in and grab one, and without opening your hand, guess what color it is. And the point was to make the distinction between being correct versus the right answer.
Yeah.
One out of 5 time, the right answer was red. The correct answer was the correct answer rather was red, but the right answer, 1 out of 5 times was going to be blue. But you keep guessing red, you're going to win in the long run. And I guess that's what you're describing here. You're still talking about probabilities, but the more you can bend the probabilities to your favor in the long run, the better outcomes you're going to get.
Yep, that's exactly it. And the more a leadership team can center themselves around this idea that they're not in the cleaning business, they are in the human business. Their job is to identify, inspire, employ great humans, train them, develop them. Their humans are in the cleaning business. But where you find a lot of leadership time is spent in the operations side of the business, right? The delivery of the thing to the client. And great operators have the ability to sort of lift themselves above that and say, the number one role I have in this business is a keeper and developer of humans. And I have to be an attractant to the kinds of humans that can do well in my business.
So we've talked about AI, quite a bit, kind of, woven in through this discussion. Let's take a step back a little bit, and it can certainly tie into, the hiring and retention and, lifetime value. But share a little bit of, like, what are the other AI interests that you have?
I'm interested in AI in almost every capacity. Where I'm most hopeful around AI is that we are getting to the point where we can. You think about the time that it takes for somebody to become an expert at a PhD level or higher, right? For somebody that's an oncologist trying to cure cancer and they're a cancer researcher, like you don't develop that overnight. Right? It takes decades to get a human to that skill level, and then it's still small. With AI, we're getting to the point where we can deploy through computing power billions of PhD level researchers around topics. And so we're already seeing a very fast cracking of very difficult entrenched problems. We're getting new interventions for disease, or new ways of removing contaminants out of our, and pollutants out of our atmosphere. So the biggest, most complex problems on the planet are being fixed and accelerated through AI. So I find that super fascinating. And then, yes, on the other side, there is the negative side of what can happen with AI. But I tend to be hopeful and an optimist. You think back to like nuclear power, nuclear weapons. We've had the ability to destroy the human race through nuclear weapons for decades, and fortunately, calmer heads and treaties and all of that sort of thing has kept us relatively safe. Not that there's never been nuclear accidents or other issues. I think a similar thing can happen with AI, where through treaties and through controls and just the better human nature and self-interest, we can probably roll this out in a way that the net benefit is good to humanity. So that's where I get fascinated, is the area of science. It's not that exciting to me that AI can be used to help people make more money. It's the business that I'm in. I love that, but I actually am more interested in AI as a ability to create a better species of people and a better planet on which to raise our children.
And just from a business standpoint, a management standpoint, a strategic standpoint, I've had a lot of discussions with cleaning business owners, and there's all kinds of opinions on the topic that you just had there. And just like, there's a lot of opinions about nuclear energy and all kinds of other things, but the reality is it's there and it's a real thing. AI is happening with us or without us. You can say that,
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. I don't want to, be part of it, but it's going to happen anyway. So
at the end of the day, you really have to, here's what I think as a business owner, what I encourage people is to fundamentally understand what AI is. Actually removes the fear. Like, people think of use cases like using ChatGPT, but if you understand, like, how does AI exist at the chip level, like literally the hardware that it's run on, and the architecture of how those are built, and then the layering on of the compute power and the algorithms, and how does an AI model actually learn, and what does a context window actually mean? Yes, that's a very geeky topic. The value, if you can sort of go back to first principles as it comes to AI, is, one, it removes some of the fear. It also removes the hype. It's much easier to understand what is hype and what is actually real and happening if you sort of have a core understanding of the foundation. So you're not just a user of it, but you're really stepping back and saying, what's the architecture? I'm excited about, you think about, just go into advertising for any business. There's probably not many cleaning businesses that are doing like high video production capabilities at scale. Just, used to be you'd spend 15 grand for a minute commercial. Yeah. You can, and not even be that great of production quality. You can do Hollywood studio kind of delivery now for $400 and have it done in a couple hours with a single person. So the the business owner that gets that and is able to amplify their message in a community for like fractions of a penny of what somebody would do in traditional marketing, there's just no way people can compete. I don't see yet in the cleaning industry where you have a lot of AI answering the phones, booking appointments, and that sort of thing. But you just move over to like the HVAC, plumbing, electrical. 6 months ago, people were saying, "Oh, I'm never going to replace it. The homeowners will never go for it. It's too clunky." I was on a call just 60 days ago, a bunch of really successful contractors, and over half the people in the room had already fully implemented AI answering their phones and booking their appointments, not as a secondary fallback overnight call, like a second tier citizen, actually front of the funnel, and only sending it to a human when it gets stuck. And the data doesn't lie. The booking rate is higher and the average ticket size is higher. Think about the reduction in hiring and training costs. Yes, you got to put a little effort into it in the front. Now, you'll get into, philosophical conversations of, well, you've taken away a human's job and you've done, yes, that's true. I tend to believe that as a society, we will find a way to take care of the community around us that ends up being displaced by technology. It's true that technology has always displaced jobs and net new jobs have come. I'm not sure that math will hold for the pace of change, right? Like we're doing in 3 months the kind of change that used to take 50 years to do. And humans are really good at adapting over 50 years, pretty bad at adapting within a month.
And it's inevitable, I guess, is the other part of it. You can say, well, I just don't like that. I'm going to continue to do it the way that we've always have done it. But you're competing in a world where you're going to be competing against other employers, other companies, other people in your vertical that are going to be leveraging and taking advantage of this technology. And
let's use an example everybody could understand. Let's say you're a credit card company. And credit card companies have these massive call centers, right, to take calls from their customers. So you have Amex and you have another credit card company, Chase. That call center floor can be completely replaced with AI and is happening. That cost benefit, like it doesn't really matter what Amex says. If they go, "Oh, I want to create jobs," they will not be able to compete. They'll have to keep their interest rates higher, the fees on their cards higher. They'll be just because they've got to have the physical space to put people in, all of the support capacities and the HR and the benefits and all of that. It doesn't really matter philosophically what they want to do. If they want to compete, they'll have to change. And I think that's true with cleaning companies. That pace of change might be thankfully slower because we're in an industry that's typically slower to adopt the leading edge. But that's also an advantage, especially for the kind of contractors that'll be at your event, because they are first adopters. They are first moving. They could leapfrog to an extent that their competitors are never going to be able to catch up.
And have the ability to scale and get to a size that we really couldn't even consider as plausible in the old world.
Yeah, I was watching a video with Sam Altman, and this has been probably 6 months ago, but he was saying that within the next 2 years, there'll be the first $1 trillion valued company with less than 4 employees.
I can see that.
And you think about it, historically, what $1 trillion valuation, there are thousands of employees to get a company of that size up and running. But that's the leverage that you get with AI. I was doing I'm using a particular AI product, and I have created the ability to just put in the name of a company, and it goes out and looks at all the competitors in the area, logs into their websites, logs into every social media, looks at all of the videos on their social media, ranks all of the job openings and pricing and their approach against all those competitors. And it takes less than 20 minutes to get a 40-page report that is more in depth than in a competitive analysis than you could do if you spent 3 weeks on it. Like it literally goes in and watches your competitors' Facebook videos and social media videos and then compares their strategy to your strategy. That's impressive.
And it's valuable. And you might not be doing it. I'm saying you in general, you might not be doing it, but your competitors are doing it, or they will be doing it. It's going to be
Yeah.
commonplace.
So we do that from our recruiting standpoint. When we have a contractor sign up with us, we automatically do a review of all of the activity of their competitors in their region they're hiring in, so they know the landscape they're playing in. Where do they rank in terms of desirability as an employee? Where do they actually rank in terms of how their job ads are written? Where do they actually rank in terms of pay and benefits? And equipped with that kind of knowledge, they're able to make smarter decisions and win more often.
You know, a whole nother dimension of this, and we don't think about it a lot in you know, the home services world, but humanoid robots are becoming a real thing in this world as well. And it's, you know, the whole, you know, manifestation of something that kind of looks like a person. The thing that's really making it happen is AI, and the mechanical part is already there. It's just the AI part.
Yeah. So I don't know if many of your contractors would be aware of this. How much is a humanoid robot that's capable of self-learning and doing any task in the home likely to cost when it comes to market?
What would you 10 years from now? What, today?
Less than 3 years from now.
Price tag's what, about 50 grand right now, so probably be a fifth of that 3 years from now.
You can't actually buy a fully humanoid robot today on the market that can self-train and do all that in a home. It's not available yet. But when it's available at scale, they're suggesting that it'll be less than the price of a mid-sized sedan.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean? We tend to think, oh, that these robots that'll cook and clean and, you know, fix our ACs and do all that, or mow the lawn, are going to be for the wealthy. It's not. You have middle class Americans that have 2 cars, 3 cars. We're going to be in homes within the decade that have 3 or 4 humanoid robots in the home, cooking and cleaning and doing all of the things. Like this is happening. That's not a maybe. There, you can already log in and go and see. And I've toured factories where they're producing these robots, where they take a robot that is self-learning. Nobody's programming it. It self-learns. It observes. So, as an example, there is a surgical robot right now that did like a gallbladder surgery, which is takes a skilled surgeon. It self-taught itself how to do the surgery by watching 12 hours of videos from the world's best surgeons, and now it performs it better. Nobody programmed it. It just watched the videos, and now it can do it. That's the world we're entering into. It's coming. So, you know, I'm in the hiring space, so I might have a reduction in the amount of people trying to hire, but we'll see, you know, where that goes.
But there's going to be all kinds of other jobs that are going to be created by that, and you know, it's just very well possible that your teammate might be a humanoid robot, and you're augmenting your human workforce with robots. I mean, we could do that. I think there's an opportunity to do that today with like robotic floor cleaners and stuff like that.
Yeah, but there's a critical difference here of purpose-built robots like floor cleaners, right? Roomba vacuum cleaner
versus something that can
versus AGI, where it can do anything and it can learn anything like a child would. That's a whole different level of technology that hasn't existed on the planet before.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. One thing you can say for certain, regardless of what the future holds, those that educate themselves and stay on the cutting edge and commit themselves to being curious learners are going to be ahead of the game. And that's what people that come to this conference are already showing themselves to be, is curious learners. So I'm excited to come and hang out with them. And Tom, thank you for the invite to come speak.
Appreciate you coming. You're going to add a tremendous amount to what we're doing here. I mean, we have a choice. We can either watch this happen or we can make this happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty obvious which side you want to be on.
Yep. That's it.
So yeah, we're pushing up on the top of the hour here. Again, it's maycentral.academy is where you can sign up for the event. Before we started, this live stream, we had 3 tickets still left to attend live. There's an infinite number of live stream tickets. So go to maycentral.academy, sign up. We'll see you starting September 17th. Jonathan, you're awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you in person, Tom. Take care.
Take care. See you all soon. Bye-bye.